I just wanted to point out that the Consul-General is an avid baseball fan and is very well aware of the baseball teams that the General Assembly cares about. That would be the St. Louis Cardinals, Chicago Cubs, and the Chicago White Sox. So would you please join me in welcoming Mr. Naoki Ito to the Illinois Senate.
Thank you, President Carleton, senators, ladies and gentlemen. I am very pleased to join all of you this afternoon and truly honored to be given the opportunity to speak before such a distinguished group. I only began my duty as Consul-General in Chicago this February, but I understand that I have arrived in Illinois in the middle of a very serious controversy. Which quarterback will be the future of the Chicago Bears? Mike Glennon or Mitchell Trubisky? While I am new to my position, I'm very familiar with the land of Lincoln. I played on my university's football team and cheered for Refrigerator Perry and Jim McMahon in the '85 Super Bowl. In the early 1990s, I visited Galena to participate in a business conference amidst intense trade friction. At the time, Japan's share of the US trade deficit was 58%. Now it is down to 9%. I could not be happier to be back. I look forward to experiencing all Illinois has to offer, including, hopefully, a Bears winning streak later this year. Japan has a very long history with Illinois. The first Japanese came to Chicago in 1872 as part of the Iwakura mission to learn about your systems of government and education. In 1892, the Phoenix Pavilion at the Columbian Exposition was built with the cooperation of Japanese craftsmen. Unfortunately, the pavilion burned down in 1946. However, last year, at the site of the pavilion, Yoko Ono released the sculpture called Sky Landing. Her first permanent public art installation in the United States. This is part of Project 120 Chicago, which could lead to the revitalization of the Garden of the Phoenix in Jackson Park. Japanese in Illinois have also contributed academics. Did you know that the very first doctorate at the University of Chicago was given to a Japanese? Eiji Asada, a scholar of Old Testament biblical studies, received the first doctorate in 1893. Over 100 years later, at the same university, the Japanese-born professor, Dr. Yoichiro Nambu, received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2008 for his work in subatomic physics. Such achievements have inspired Japanese students to come abroad to Illinois. There are more than 400 Japanese students studying in Illinois each year. In Japan, Illinois perhaps best known for President Abraham Lincoln. Every year, hundreds of Japanese students from Springfield sister city Ashikaga participate in a competition. They read the Gettysburg Address, write an essay about what it means to the 21st century, and memorize the speech. A few lucky students are selected to travel to Springfield. They visit the old state capitol and recite the Gettysburg Address, where Lincoln gave his famous House Divided speech. Fortunately for the Japanese students, the Gettysburg Address is much shorter and easier to memorize. Lincoln's words transcend borders and help connect all nations that believe in democracy. Over the years, Japan and the US have worked together to spread our shared values of democracy, freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. It is these shared values that are at the foundation of Japan-US relations. It is in his 5th year in office, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, his surname is spelled A-B-E, but name is pronounced Abe, not Abe. So in his 5th year in office, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has provided stability and confidence for the Japanese economy through his Abenomics plan. GDP has increased by 44 trillion yen, approximately $400 billion. The labor force is growing, and unemployment has fallen to 2.8%, the lowest in 22 years. The participation of women in the labor force has also improved nearly 4% over 4 years. In February, Prime Minister Abe and President Donald Trump met and reaffirmed the commitment to the Mutual Security Alliance, as well as the importance of deepening our trade and investment. In April, Vice President Mike Pence met with Deputy Prime Minister Taro Aso in Tokyo and began an economic dialogue. They will continue to discuss a possible bilateral framework which would promote trade, economic growth, and high standards throughout the Asia-Pacific region. Our bilateral cooperation is demonstrated by Japan's relationship with Illinois. Altogether, there are 630 Japanese business facilities in Illinois, which employ over 44,000 people. The Aishin Group in downstate Marion is a great example that illustrates our combined success. This group is part of Aishin Seiki, one of the largest automotive component manufacturers in the world, based in Korea, Japan. They celebrate their 15th anniversary in Marion. This year, employment in Marion increased by 15% from 2000 to 2014, and Aishin has grown to 3 plants over that time. In addition to direct investment by Japanese companies, Japan also imports $4.2 billion worth of goods and services from Illinois. We have a vital two-way economic partnership. I ask you, senators, to help us encourage and further develop this relationship. I hope to that end that each of you can help cultivate a grassroots understanding of Japan's investment in Illinois with your constituents as well. In concluding, ladies and gentlemen, let me turn our attention to a more contentious international situation. Lately, the world has been alarmed and concerned by the increasing frequency of the provocations of North Korea. You may recall that a ballistic missile was fired into the Sea of Japan while Prime Minister Abe was visiting President Trump at Mar-a-Lago in February. We fully appreciate the strong determination demonstrated by the United States to address and solve the situation in our region. When Vice President Pence visited Japan in April, he warned North Korea not to test the resolve of the U.S. military while aboard the USS Ronald Reagan. The USS Ronald Reagan is home-ported in Yokosuka, Japan, which is the headquarters of the United States 7th Fleet. Of course, Illinois has a special connection with the Navy through the Great Lakes Naval Station, where every sailor receives his or her basic training. Japan is assuming larger roles and responsibilities, and Secretary Mattis called Japan host nation financial support, a model of cost sharing for other nations to follow. The Japan-US alliance continues to serve as the cornerstone of peace, stability, and prosperity for the whole Asia-Pacific region. Thank you again for your warm welcome today. I would like to note that this December, the Consulate-General of Japan in Chicago, which is my office, will celebrate its 120th anniversary. I am confident that our future together will be as productive as our past. I am excited to discover more about Illinois and the Midwest, and to work with you to promote our two-way economic partnership and cultural exchange.